In this video, we're going to talk about property tax. Now, to calculate property tax, you take what's called the assessed value and you multiply it by the tax rate, and that will give you the amount of your taxes for your property. So let's go through some of this terminology so that you know how to find these values. So the market value is an estimated value that the property would sell for. And then the assessed value is an assigned value used to calculate the property tax. And that is where we got this value from. So you would take the assessed value and you would multiply it by the tax rate to get the taxes. Now, sometimes you have to calculate the assessed value yourself before you can multiply it by the tax rate. If you need to do that, if you have to find the assessed value yourself, you take the assessed rate and you multiply it by the given market value. And that's how you find the assessed value. Okay, so now let's move on. Before I do this example here with Bill, I want to go through the different ways that you can represent tax rate. Okay, so I have a table here, and just like there's different ways to represent proportions, like we have fractions and we have decimals and we have percentages, there's different ways that we can represent tax rates. If you want to write down a tax rate that represents per dollar of the assessed value, here's an example right here. So 0.0648 means $0.0648 of every dollar of the assessed value. Then we have per $100 of the assessed value. We would just move the decimal place over 2 places, like this, 1, 2. And so 0.0648, if we write it per $1 of the assessed value, but we want to then rewrite it as per $100 of the assessed value, we just move the decimal place over 2 places, and that would give us $6.48 for every $100 of the assessed value. We could also do it by percent, which is always going to be the same as per $100 because that's what percent means, per 100. Okay, and then if we want to write it the number of dollars per 1,000 of the assessed value, we would just move, let me erase this. We would move this decimal place over 3 places, and so we would write it as 64.8. So this would mean $64.80 for every $1,000 of the assessed value. And then mils is always going to be the same as per 1,000. That's what mils means, is per 1,000. It's just written in a different language. So if I wanted to say my tax rate was 64.8 mils, that means for every 1,000 of my assessed value, I'm going to pay $64.80 for taxes. If I was to write it in terms of per 100, that means for every $100 of my assessed value, I'm going to pay $6.48 for my taxes. So there's all different ways that we can write it, and basically we're just moving the decimal place depending on what we want to take it out of. Do we want to do it per $1, per 100, or per 1,000? Okay, so now back up to this example here with Bill. It says, example, Bill pays a property tax of $3,200. In his community, the tax rate is 50 mils. So that means 50 mils means for every 1,000 of his assessed value, he's going to pay $50 in taxes. Okay, it says, what is Bill's assessed value? So we need to work backwards. We know that if we look up here, assessed value times the tax rate is equal to the taxes. I'm looking at this first equation up here in red. It says the assessed value times the tax rate will give me the taxes. So we have to work backwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the taxes and divide by the tax rate to find the assessed value if we want to work backwards to find the assessed value. So we take the taxes and divide by the tax rate, and that will give us the assessed value. Okay, so since the taxes is $3,200, we're going to divide by the tax rate, which is 50 mils. And 50 means per 1,000, so I'm going to write it as 50 over 1,000. And that's going to give us the, let me rewrite that. That's going to give us the assessed value. So on the calculator, I'm going to put 3,200 divided by, now in parentheses, I need to put 50 divided by 1,000. I need to make sure that I put parentheses around the 50 divided by 1,000 so that my calculator does order of operations correctly. When we do that, we find that our assessed value is $64,000. We can check it because we know the formula from the beginning that the assessed value times the tax rate should give me the amount of the taxes. So if I take 64,000 and I multiply it by the tax rate, which is 50 over 1,000, that should give me 3,200. Okay. Next question. It says, example, Middlesex County needs $700,000 from property taxes to meet its budget. The total value of the assessed property in Blunt is $110 million. What is the tax rate of Middlesex in each form? Okay. So we need to find the tax rate, and to find the tax rate, it's the amount of the budget. I have that formula here in green. It's the amount of the budget divided by the total assessed value. And this will give us the answer per $1. So then the question is asking us to give the tax rate in each form. So then we're going to move the decimal place to show the answer in each form by per 100, by percent, etc. So the tax rate per dollar is going to be the amount of the budget. And it says here that we need $700,000 for the budget. And we're going to divide by the total assessed property, which is $110 million. And when we do that, we get 0.00636. It looks like 636,36364. Okay, let's say we round it to 4 places. We'll round it and we'll say it's 0.0064. And this is per $1. So that means if we're looking at an individual property, for the assessed value of that property to find the tax rate for every $1 of that assessed value, that person is going to pay 0.0064 for every dollar. Now, we're going to change this into all the different forms. If I want to figure out what it is per 100, I have to move the decimal place over. Let's see, 2 places. So per 100, that would give me 0.64. So that means 64 cents for every $1 of the assessed value this person would have to pay in taxes. Now, percent is always going to be the same as per 100 because percent means per 100. So it's going to be 0.64%. And then for per 1,000, we take the per dollar and move it over 3 places. So that's going to be 6.4. So that means for every 1,000 of the assessed value, this person will pay $6.40 for taxes. And then in mills, remember mills and per 1,000 will always be the same as well, because mills means per 1,000. So these will always be the same, and per 100 and percent will always be the same. Okay, next example says the home of Bill Burton is assessed at $80,000. The tax rate is 18.50 mils. What is the tax on Bill's home? So to find the tax, that's going to be the assessed value times the tax rate. So we're going to take 80,000, that's the assessed value given to us in the problem, times the tax rate. The tax rate is $18.50 for every 1,000. So I'm going to write it like this because it's per 1,000. And when we multiply that out, we get 1,480. Okay, next example. It's given information about the assessed value rate, the market value, the total budget needed, and the assessed value. Part A, it says calculate the assessed value of Bill's home. So the assessed value is always going to be the assessed rate times the market value. So in this case, we're going to have the assessed rate, which is 40%. But when we write that as a decimal to do our calculations, it's going to be 0.40. And I'm going to multiply that by the market value, which is given as 210,000. So 210,000 times 0.40 gives us $84,000. So that's his assessed value on his home. Now in part B, it says calculate the tax rate for the community in decimal form to the nearest 10,000. So that means they're telling us how to round it. And then we're going to write this in each form. Okay, so the tax rate, we got that, remember, from taking the total budget needed, which is given up here at the beginning, up at the top, which is $176,000. and we're going to divide by the total assessed value, which is also given, which is $1,910,000. And this will always give it to us per $1. So if I take $176,000 and divide by $1,910,000, that's going to give us a tax rate of 0.0921465,969. Now the problem says round to the nearest 10,000, which would be up to here, 4 places. And so we're going to approximate that as 0.0921. All right, so now this is per dollar. So every dollar of the $84,000 of his assessed value, he's going to pay $0.0921. Now, if we want to do this per 100, we need to move the decimal place over 2 places, so that would be 9.21. So he would have to pay $9.21 for every $100 of the $84,000. Percent is going to be 9.21% because these are always going to be the same. And then per 1,000, we're going to move the original value over to 3 places, which would give us 92.1. And then in mils, it would be 92.1 because these will always be the same. So these are all the different ways that we could represent the tax rate in this particular community. Part C says, calculate the property tax on Bill's home using each form in decimal, per 100, per 1,000, and in mils. So we're going to calculate his taxes, but we're going to calculate it 4 different times, okay? Or actually 5 different times, which each of the different forms. So to find the property tax, we take the assessed value times the tax rate. And we're going to do this for each of the different forms of the tax rate. And every time it should come out the same. We should still get the same amount of taxes. We're just doing it in a different way. So if we're doing it per dollar, I would take his assessed value, which we said was $84,000, and times it, because it's per dollar, I would just take the $84,000 times the 0.0921. 84000 times 0.0921, and that gives us $7,736.40. Now, if we do this per 100, that means we're going to take 9.21, which is the tax rate for per 100, and divide it by 100 because it's for every $100 of the $84,000. I'm going to take $84,000 times 9.21 and divided by 100. And that should give us the same amount, which it does. Now we're going to do it by percent. So I'm going to take 84,000 and I'm going to multiply it by 9.21%. However, when we make our calculations with percentages, we have to put it in decimal form first. So I'm going to multiply by 0.0921 because that's 9.21% as a decimal, and I would get the same value. Now when we do it per 1,000, I'm going to take 84,000 times the tax rate in per thousand, which we said was 92.1. So I would take 92.1 divided by 1,000 because it's per 1,000, and I take 84,000 times 92.1 divided by 1,000, and I still get the same answer. We're calculating this gentleman's tax, but we're doing it using the different forms of the rate. Last one, we're calculating it in mils now. So I'm going to take the assessed value using the mils form. Remember, mils means per 1,000. So I'm going to take 92.1 and divide by 1,000, and I'm going to get the same answer. So this was when we did it in mils. This was when we used per 1,000. This was when we used percent. This was when we used per 100, and this is when we used per